Thank you. Michael Tier, I'm the CEO of WildBear Entertainment. Our ambitious idea was to establish a film and television company in Canberra in 1989. And as one of my producer colleagues in Sydney noted, he said that, geez, once we began to be a bit more successful, he goes, you guys defy gravity. And what I think he meant was a bit of a dig at Canberra. I mean, you know, how could anything exciting happen in that town? We're a film and TV company. We're what's known as factual specialists. We look at wildlife, science, history and entertainment. WildBear produces around 100 to 120 hours of factual television a year. It may not sound a lot, but I can assure you it is. And to give some context, all Australian free-to-air networks in 2014 broadcast 440 hours. So that gives you a sense of the scale of our business. This is who we do it for. We work for networks all over the world. We do work in Australia, but around 70% of the films that we finance are financed from overseas. And that in Australia is a very unusual scenario. We're a net exporter of IP, not an importer. So what is it? We have a very distinctive position in the global market. We focus on stories that are globally relevant and that leverage a unique Australian aspect that differentiate themselves from our competitors. And by that, our competitors are all over the world. We don't necessarily focus particularly on the Australian market. And so, for instance, in the case of wildlife, it might be Australian wildlife. In the case of factual entertainment, these three dudes spend their time looking for sightings of the extinct thylacine in Tasmania. And this program was the highest rating show on one of the Discovery Channel networks in the UK. And they're distinctly Australian. In the genre of history, it's sometimes our creative expertise, our Asia-Pacific location that gives us a unique perspective. The business is based, we have our television, we do feature films, primarily factual. We have a corporate arm, we have post-production, we have a stock footage library. But the area that's really growing for us is international. Australia's a small market, it's 1% of the global broadcast market, so the growth opportunities are overseas, and as you can see we've got some fantastic figures there. Exports 30% up last year, and 24% of all income from overseas. The key thing about our business, when you try and scale it and get to 120 hours, it's incredibly labour intensive. You can amortise some of your expenses, but for every hour of television there's a hell of a lot of person weeks that go into it, and you can't shortcut that stuff. It's the sort of blood, sweat and tears of the creative team that are working on the project, and it makes growing it in a small market like Canberra with a limited talent pool quite challenging. When you're selling to the international market, it's about volume and quality. You have to produce lots of content. The transaction costs of a broadcaster or a distributor dealing with multiple producers in all jurisdictions across the world is too high, so they're looking for single suppliers who can supply big lots of volume and assured content. We need to produce 30 projects a year, and we have a success rate of 1 in 8, so one out of every 8 ideas get up. So that means our team has to come up with 240 new ideas every year, and every one of those ideas has got to be executable. So building a business of scale in television is really challenging, and it requires a lot of human intellectual capital, and it's a great employer of people. No robots with yet. So what's happening in our business? Well, no surprises, digital disruption, content delivery via the internet is totally transforming the business. Facebook, Hulu, iView, SVOD, Turnplay, all these technologies are transforming the business. The scheduler used to be the most important person in the network. They were the person who decided what time, what show. They're, if not extinct, they're highly endangered in this era of on-demand. So for us, a content is massively in demand. The content business is enormous and it's growing. But the key thing is all of the individual territories are shrinking and the license fees are shrinking. So you have to come up with stories that will work in multiple markets. So the stories that travel across borders but have that unique Australian characteristic. And that, I think, is one of the key reasons why we're very optimistic about the future of WildBear. Thank you.